This is Charlie. Charlie is a fully rehabilitated squirrel that just a few weeks ago was released back into the wild. Because a few weeks before this, he and his brothers were in their pre-release cage making their final preparations for their triumphant return to their natural habitat. Which is great because weeks before that they were all taking food from a syringe. Because weeks before that, Charlie and his siblings were separated from their mother when a tree they were in had fallen over, and multiple attempts at reuniting them unfortunately were unsuccessful. They were left in shock, motherless, and in need of some serious squirrel rehabilitation. Fortunately, over the next several weeks, that's what he and his siblings received. They grew stronger, healthier, able to participate in daily cardiovascular exercises, and would ultimately regain the strength skills that squirrels need to successfully survive in the wild. And it's always with great pleasure to be able to release them back into their natural habitat. I've shown in previous videos our full rehabilitated squirrel release process, but it's days like today I like to just go down and see how the little guys are doing. The whole process of checking in on them is as simple as just pulling up a chair and waiting. And it just takes a few moments to pass before I start seeing Charlie and some of his siblings start stirring across the creek and making their way over. So I'll have their favorite nuts ready to go in my hand and just sit and wait for their glorious return. I of course have regular squirrel and wildlife feeders all the time stacked with food for them to eat, but they much prefer to come straight to the source, and of course I don't mind feeding it to them. Sometimes they'll eat the food right in front of me. Sometimes, after careful inspection, they'll decide it's better to bury this for another day. And if you're being honest with yourself, watching them bury their nuts and then seeing them use their arms to move the leaves over to cover their tracks, it's probably the cutest thing you'll see all day. And of course, they always come back for more. You might be wondering how we tell the difference between a squirrel we have rehabbed and released and a wild squirrel we've had nothing to do with. Turns out it's pretty simple. The wild squirrel in the center of the screen here usually will flick their tails as a sign of aggression. Or if they're feeling especially vocal, they will just scream and hiss at you saying, "Get out of my neighborhood. These nuts belong to me." Our squirrels, at least for their first few days, will remain super friendly. But they also have physical characteristics that help them tell them apart. Some squirrels will naturally end up being bigger in size than others, some will have less bushy tails. Some, like Charlie, will have a particular rust-colored spot which makes them easier to identify. They all have different personalities as well that help you differentiate between them. For example, on release day, this squirrel was so ready to go I didn't get to capture on camera his release. He was out of here. While some of his brothers, on the other hand, were pretty comfortable with their current surroundings. Even enticing them with food wasn't enough for them to pursue their freedom. This squirrel was kind of like, nah, I kind of like it where I am. And this one was really unashamed in his unwillingness to leave. He was essentially a squirrel squatter. It took a while for one of our more timid squirrels to realize if he was even going to like living in a tree. In the end, they all elected freedom and left the cages, and I'm going to end the video with more footage of them coming back to their nutty buffet. Keep in mind that the occasional animal videos on our channel are meant to show a brief insight into the life of a rehabber. Every member of my family has been trained and certified in animal rehabbing. We do not keep any wild animal as a pet, and we ask that you please consider not doing that as well. If you are interested in rehabbing animals, internet search your local area and I am sure you will find several groups that are interested in more volunteers. Have a great day everybody, and we'll see you next week.